Is that a hose? I'm tired.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. I finished all my finals though, and my paper. It's all done. So I have one semester of law school left, which technically should have been an announcement. So I guess I'll actually start.
Are we on to the announcement phase?
I haven't even introduced us yet. Okay. Hi everybody. You're listening to the Triad, where we are spooky but sensitive. I am Shannon.
I'm Shelby.
I'm Hannah.
Yay. Okay. Yeah. One of my announcements was, I'm finished with this semester of law school, so I only have one semester left.
Yay!
We will see how my grades went, because I put no effort into anything at all. That's not true. I put a lot of effort the past couple weeks into getting caught up, but
we had to make a pact to remind her to go back to school next semester.
I literally told them, like, if I ever start, like, not going to class again, yell at me and remind me that I hated everything for the past 2 weeks. Because that was a mistake. But hopefully
we apparently have to bug her until she goes back to class.
Yeah. Hopefully next semester I won't get sick for a week and a half. And then...
Hold on, let me adjust my volume
fine.
Real quick.
You're fine.
Okay. Hopefully that helped.
Okay.
I don't have the Rona.
Yeah, I think I'm still sick. I don't either. Because I keep my dizziness came back randomly. Not nearly as bad.
My vertigo came back.
Of course it fucking did.
My hip is broken again.
Oh no.
I think that's because I fell down the stairs.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if you pulled an alley and got a hairline fracture in your hip.
No, I don't think it's not that. It's that joint that connects your butt to your back.
Gotcha.
Oh,
there's
you probably pinched
what I
your
did last
sciatic
time.
nerve or something.
No, it's not in my back. It's in my hip. I don't know how to explain it. It's
the
sacroiliac joint.
I never took
Yes.
anatomy. I don't know anything.
I do know what you're talking about because I took anatomy like 5 times.
It's
never have,
literally
and now I never will.
your hip, but back bone.
Was that your announcement? Just for my own knowledge of what's going on?
No.
Or did you have another? Okay, what's your announcement?
1, it's my birthday.
Yes,
Happy birthday!
Also, real quick, didn't we also record on Shelby's birthday?
We did.
Yeah, and then we
recorded
recorded the day after mine in July.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
We're great at this.
Yeah.
Number 2. So I was really struggling last episode to figure out a way to connect the current administration with Soviet Russia, because I know in my heart that they're related, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And then I heard this NPR story that was so incredible. It was so good. But it was about something called preference falsification, and then it clicked. What is happening right now is called preference falsification, and it is the same thing that happened in the Soviet Union. So, if, like, for the example they used was, like, say you, like, spoke out against something in the Soviet Union. You were like, okay, this thing that the government is doing is really shitty, and we should stop doing it. Mm-hmm. All of your friends would turn against you and, like, openly be awful to you, like, spit in your face and, like, not walk on the same side of the street as you and everything, because... Even if they agreed with you, because they were doing this thing called preference falsification, where they pretended to not agree with you or pretended to have the preference of the opposition, even though they disagreed with it, because they didn't want to lose that either place of power or place of security that they have. So that's the same thing that's happening right now in the administration. Yes, but that's the same thing that's happening right now, is like all of these Republicans in the Senate or in the House or whatever, who used to be, you know, like reasonable people, are now acting like total crazy lunatics, because what they're doing is they're doing all of these things that Trump is telling them to do because of preference falsification. Even if they don't believe in it, even if they don't believe that the election was rigged or flawed or a lie or a scam or whatever, they're still trying to overturn it because they don't want to lose the power that they have gained from preference falsification in Trump's administration. Anyway,
That's so
thank you.
interesting.
Goodbye.
I've never
Isn't
heard
it?
of that,
So
like,
cool.
as a concept. That's
Right,
so
like,
cool.
I've never heard of that as a
Yeah.
term, but it makes so much sense.
Me neither.
Yeah, like, I didn't, like, I
does.
know,
I-
like, the concept behind it, like, abstractly, but I didn't know that there was, like, a term
That's
for
really
it.
cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah. That
Even
was
if
really-
NPR, like, totally just came up with that term, like, 2 hours ago, like,
That's
I don't
fine.
care, because the fact that
Yeah.
it has a name makes me happy.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I didn't know there was a word for it.
Yeah.
And it literally has been blowing my mind. It was on NPR. I can't remember what this segment was called, but it was so good. I'll try to I'll ask my aunt what it was. I was in the back seat of my aunt and uncle's truck, like, trying not to throw up. I think I sent you guys that picture. Because my uncle drives like a maniac, and also he had one arm in a sling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
sent you that?
Yeah.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
she was feeding him chips, and also he was texting, and I was like, we're just gonna die on this mountain.
Yeah.
Hold on, I need to give my cat a treat, or she's about to bite me.
I gave Yuki a blanket so that she would leave me alone.
Maisie's
It's,
pouting on the couch.
it's
for
literally
reasons
right
I
at my
don't.
feet so that she will not bother me.
Yeah. Shelby, were you gonna say something, or did I imagine that?
My only announcement is that our furnace upstairs, which is where I record, is either broken or just very dirty, and
Ew.
it is currently not working. So it is freezing in my bedroom. So I currently have
Yeah.
on like a winter hat and a sweater and sweatpants and 2 blankets.
Yeah.
So
Very nice.
Yeah.
I wore
it's a
my
good time.
heavy winter coat all day in the kindergarten class today because I was so cold. And I was like, how is no one else freezing? And they were all like, yeah, we're a little chilly. And I was like, I'm in a winter coat and a sweater. I don't understand.
I was like furiously finishing my paper this morning, so I was just, and like when I do that, I get into like super duper focus mode where I can't even realize what's going on around me. And then I finished my paper and I was like, holy fuck, I can't feel my feet. It's so cold in here.
Yeah.
Because I forgot to turn on my space heater because I get like no heat back in my bedroom. So yeah, now I went and took a shower too, so I'm warm for my shower, but I have a sweatshirt, sweatpants, socks, and my heated blanket on top of me.
Nice. Oh,
If we were all
also,
And then I,
together,
like,
we could
preheated the
cuddle.
room. Yes.
there was a lot that just got said then, and I understood none of it.
What were you gonna say, Shelby?
Also, my toe is like completely numb now. My big toe on my right foot, and I think that it is a hangnail, not a hangnail, an ingrown toenail.
Dude, I love cutting those out. That's like a
and-
pastime of mine.
Those
Yeah.
are why I don't have a toenail
So
anymore on my big
I
toe.
cut it open, and now it's still numb. But then it like tried to get infected, and so now I'm leaving it alone until I can fully cut it out, and it's a good time. Don't
Yeah.
perform surgery at
Woohoo.
home, friends.
Yeah. Just
That's how
hope you
Kevy got a
don't
staph
have
infection.
to-
Nice.
Yeah, just hope you don't have to get it removed, because until I had kidney stones, that procedure was the most painful thing ever, just because of where they inject the numbing stuff.
Yeah.
So,
No,
yeah,
I
just
don't
hope
want
She
you
that.
don't
tried
have to do
to
that.
lance a cyst with an earring.
Oh my God.
I mean, I may or
Anyway.
may not have done that before.
Oh, good lord.
Well, did you get a staph infection from it?
I did not, because I
y'all
also
still
drowned
alive.
everything in hydrogen peroxide and neosporin.
I believe we put a lighter to the earring. It was done in my kitchen in Florida.
Oh my God.
Cool. But that definitely sounds like Kevy.
Yeah.
I barely know her, but that sounds like her.
That same trip, Dara broke her finger in a cotton candy machine.
Oh my God.
nice.
Excuse me.
Those Nelson girls like to be traumatic.
Look, I've had some pretty stupid injuries, so.
Okay. So, I think that's it on announcements, right? Yes?
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a
Preference
PowerPoint.
falsification and happy Hanukkah.
Yes. I have a PowerPoint and an outline in the folder under episode 24.
Nice.
Because holy crap, we're on episode 24.
I hope you
what are
know
we
that
gonna
I
do?
actually have notes this week.
Yay!
But I don't have a PowerPoint because I am still trash. And
God damn it!
also,
Fine.
Hannah, I work 40 hours every week at really weird times of day.
I understand. I too have the jobs. TM.
Wait, what are we doing? Where are we going?
Episode 24.
Episode 24 folder.
Wait, why does this sound so familiar?
I don't know. I don't know what you know.
I don't know what I know.
Why? Yeah, I know that name. Why do I know that name?
Okay, well, for everybody else who can't see what they're looking at, I am covering Amelia Dyer today.
I mean, I vaguely said it very quietly.
Okay, well, I couldn't hear you. Okay,
Oh,
so...
damn, I thought we were about to
Make
be
that
in.
bigger. I can't see it. Okay.
Oh!
Are you skipping ahead?
Hannah!
I can see you skipping
I
ahead.
stopped. I just looked at the
It's
piece of
okay.
paper. I just looked at the piece of paper.
It's okay. Okay, so my sources for this, I have 2 BBC articles, Wikipedia as always. I feel like that should just be like a blanket statement that we're always going to use Wikipedia, but then I feel bad not crediting it, so like whatever.
Sponsored by Wikipedia, but not
God,
actually.
I fucking wish.
Look,
Except
they're
that
begging
one
for money
time.
right now, so also, like, please
I
go
gave
donate
them-
to Wikipedia.
I gave them $10 a couple months ago because I felt like that would like keep us, our use going
Right.
for a while.
Yeah.
Because we use them
Yeah.
like every single
Usually,
week.
like, once a year, I'm like, here's $5.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have an article from All That's Interesting. Sorry, I'm tired. An article from The Independent in the UK. Thank you for
Ew.
that.
It was me and not Hannah this time.
Oh, wow. All right. I have an article
Yeah.
from
I like how
Psychology
she
Today.
just assumed.
I just assumed it was Hannah. Like, come on. That's
Rude.
A fair... Okay, is it though? It's a fair assumption.
It is. I had a really big one right before I joined the
There you
Discord so
go.
that you guys wouldn't have to hear it.
I skipped one. And then I have one article from the Thames Valley Police. Okay, so just a couple notes before I jump into this. I'm going to be using the phrase illegitimate child or something like it throughout my notes. It's correct in its historical context, but it isn't used anymore for various reasons. Nowadays, we mostly just say, like, child of a single parent or something similar, or, like, even if people are, like, in some kind of a common law thing, we just have different terminology than illegitimate nowadays. And we don't have a legal distinction for children born outside of a marriage, which illegitimate child, that was a legal distinction. We don't do that anymore. I'm only using it because it's correct historically. Just as a warning, we're going to be talking about child abuse, neglect, and death. Not a lot. I only bring up what is absolutely necessary in order for the story to progress, because there's like one detail that you absolutely have to talk about in order to, at least to me, it has to be talked about. But I go as light on it as I could, but I still wanted to give that warning, because duh. Okay, so if we can go to the second slide, which is that map of the UK, because I wanted something. So, Amelia Dyer. She was born in 1836 in the village of Pyle Marsh, which was outside of Bristol, and Bristol is like straight west of London in the UK. I couldn't find a day for her birthday, which for the time wasn't super uncommon. Also, Wikipedia spells Pyle Marsh with a Y, but now it's spelled with an I, so I couldn't find any info on it for a long time. And it's been
I was
swallowed
going to
up.
say, because usually they didn't care about the birthday. They cared about, like, their baptism day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because they're
I
like,
couldn't
they
find
might
that
not
either.
live for very much longer than these few
Yeah.
hours. So
Yeah.
Or, like,
exactly.
their naming day or whatever they wanted to
if
call
you
it
make
at
it
the
to
time.
the church, you're
Yeah.
set.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So yeah, she doesn't have an actual day. And then yeah, her village has now been swallowed up by Bristol itself, so it isn't like its own village anymore. She was the youngest of 5 siblings. She could read and write like pretty well, and had a love for like literature and poetry. Her childhood was marked by her mother's mental illness, which was caused by typhus. So her mother would have these like really violent, just like fits, for lack of a better term. And Amelia was basically in charge of her care until her mother's death in 1848, which was when Amelia was 12 years old. And Amelia also had 2 sisters who died in childhood. After her mother died, she went to live with an aunt. Her father was still alive at that point, but he died in 1859. And then 2 years later, when she was 24, she married a man named George Thomas. So this was in 1861. And so George was 59 years old and Amelia was 24 years old. And like, even then, that was just kind of a weird age gap. They lied on the marriage certificate to reduce the age gap, which later caused confusion as to her actual age. So that's fun for us as historians. So
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
So, yeah. After the marriage, she trained as a nurse. And so
that. I think
she was...
I know this lady.
You probably do. This is a fairly... Like, if you know of the concept I'm about to get into, she's, like, the most famous person who did this act, I suppose. So...
Can I say it, or should I just wait for you to say
literally,
it?
like, in the next 2 sentences, I'm going to say it.
Okay.
So...
I'll just let you do it, because I think I know what you're talking about.
So yeah, and then at some point, she discovered an easier way of making money than nursing. So she would use her home to essentially provide lodging for women who had become pregnant out of wedlock, and then quote-unquote farming off the babies for adoption. And this is a process called baby farming. So if you can go to the next slide, this is just a woman with, like, she's, like, feeding children. I don't know. Obviously, I couldn't get, like, pictures of this because this is a Victorian era concept.
That tall baby is possessed by the devil.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry,
baby-
but can confirm that those are the faces that babies make when you try to feed them.
Yes.
Every
This is a
single one
fairly
of them.
accurate drawing. Okay, so I'm going to go fairly in detail with this just because it's not even, I don't know. I just wanted to go into detail about it because I think that the context is important. So, this process was fairly common in Victorian era Britain, and there are reasons why it was more common in Britain, and I will get into those later. Like, it occurred in, like, Australia and New Zealand and the US and, like, other areas as well, but it was, like, the most prevalent in Britain. So, like, basically the concept of it, you're accepting custody of an infant in exchange for a payment, so it's basically, like, community-run fostering and adoption, because at the time, those processes were not under the purview of the state or of the government or however you want to phrase it. So, like, there was no other way to do these processes. Sometimes these payments were in a lump sum. Other times it was in installments. It just depended on the situation and the person. The amount of these payments changed depending on the family's status and wealth. So if it was a woman from a wealthy family who just wanted to keep the birth a secret, it could range from 50 to 80 pounds, which at the time was insane. But normally, the woman who wanted to go through this process was impoverished and would only be charged about 5 pounds, which is still a decent amount of money. And then, yeah, as I said a little bit ago, fostering and, like, adoption were not state-run processes at this time. And so, like, just as an example, like, Jane Austen was actually fostered in this way as a very young child. She was basically passed, like, from relative to relative or villager to villager after the death of her father, and that was just how fostering was done. This process just added in the elements of you're paying for it and you're giving your child to a stranger. And so,
Great.
Yeah, it's doesn't end up being good for a whole lot of reasons. So the reason why it was so popular in the UK was because of an 1834 law called the Poor Law Amendment Act. So this law had removed any financial obligation from the fathers of illegitimate children. So, like, the dads didn't have to pay for these kids, right, in an illegitimate child kind of situation. But bringing up these children in a single-parent, illegitimate household was extremely stigmatized. So you have women who got pregnant out of wedlock who often had a very difficult time finding paying work that would give them enough money to care for themselves, their infant, and any other family members they may have, and they would be shunned from society for caring for that infant. So
Have you read Les Mis?
Yeah. Actually, yeah,
Basically.
that is a very good example of this. It's a much smaller scale than, like,
yeah.
yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Yeah, and so, like, this situation left many women in a position where baby farming was the only option they could, like, realistically take. And so they could leave the child with a baby farmer either in an adoption or a fostering type situation. So they would either give up their rights completely or come back for the child later. And just for some more cultural context, because I think it's relevant, just to the whole situation. So abortion was illegal, and it was insanely dangerous, regardless of its legality. conception itself wasn't really understood, which obviously causes problems when you're trying to
Have
deal
you
with
seen
not
those
having
Victorian era drawings of like what conception is?
I have, but not for a while, so I don't remember.
It's hilarious
because
it's like a little baby in a bullet.
Yeah,
then...
like they just, yeah,
so
it was
stupid.
bad. There was also, because this was the
find a picture.
Victorian era, there's that whole concept of like the fallen woman, and so
Do
yeah,
not get me
Hannah
started.
knows that. Yeah, Hannah and I know that fairly well because of the Victorian sexuality class that we took in college.
Oh god.
So that concept was basically that pregnancy out of wedlock was a mortal sin, and a woman in that state had like fallen from grace, and so she was ostracized. So if she and the baby didn't die in childbirth, which was a fairly high risk, and she decided to keep it, there's no childcare available. It's not like there weren't like babysitters in the concept that we have them now. There weren't daycares in the concept we have them now. Many orphanages refused to accept children born out of wedlock out of a fear that the child would inherit their mother's moral failings, which, like, one, it takes two people to make a baby, so I don't know why. Well, I do know why.
Also, why do you care? Like,
exactly.
It's a
Why do you
baby,
care? It's
not
a baby.
an adult.
Yeah. And then, like, this is a massive side note, but this was just something that me being insane just thought about. So, you guys have seen Hamilton? Or listened to Hamilton,
No.
correct? No? Okay.
Yes.
Well, so at the very end, and like this is a factually accurate thing, Alexander Hamilton's wife, Eliza, after he died in that duel, one of the things she accomplished was founding an orphanage in his name, or not like in his name, but like as, like to honor his memory because he had been an illegitimate orphan, essentially. There's a thing floating around on the internet that Eliza Hamilton's orphanage didn't accept illegitimate children, but I couldn't find an actual source that verified that. So, like, I don't think that's true. Plus, like, her beloved husband was illegitimate, so that, like, doesn't make sense. And plus, this is pre-Victorian era, so it would have been a different cultural context. I just wanted
The
to bring
only
that
thing
up.
I can think of is, like, after her death, the orphanage, like,
Change their
maybe
policy.
like down the road.
Maybe? Yeah.
with, like,
That-
the way societal standards changed, they
Yeah.
changed their policies, but I
Yeah.
don't think while she was alive she would have allowed that.
I don't either. And again, like, I looked for a source. I could not find a source. I got really sidetracked because I was like, I need to prove if this is right or not. Because I've seen it just, like, floating around the internet, especially after Hamilton got added to Disney back in July. But I was just like, I don't think that's true, guys. Okay, so back to the actual topic. So on top of all of this, like, you know, the ability to, like, get married basically disappeared as a woman after you had an illegitimate child. Because you were seen as, like, spoiled goods, quote unquote, which is a disgusting phrase. But again, historically accurate. Disgusting phrase.
I love Victorian era Europe, but I hate it so much.
Oh god, it's so terrible. God. And but like, people use that phrase now. You know, like, it's not, that isn't just a strictly Victorian era
I
concept,
still
unfortunately.
hate that phrase, and I still hate the
no,
people
it's
who use
disgusting.
it.
Yeah, no, it's
Wait,
disgusting.
what is the
regardless.
phrase? I
Like,
Spoiled
blacked
goods.
out.
Yeah, like spoiled goods
Oh.
or something
Oh.
like that because you had a child out of wedlock or whatever. Yeah, it's stupid.
Loose milk.
Look, we're gonna get to that in my next episode. Fun fact. Also, I have to
episodes today, so this should be
I have to blow my nose real quick, so don't mind me.
That's fine. I'm drinking water anyway.
Okay, so while you are making all these noises, I have a question. How can I
Yes.
look up this picture that I'm thinking of without, like, I don't know how to query my search terms here.
Help you?
I don't know.
I just describe things in as many terms as possible and hope it shows up. That's my usual Googling method.
I don't know.
I hate what I'm looking up right now.
I know. Okay, so
The thing is, when you type one of the words, this is what comes up. Literally only, you know what, keep talking, you'll see in a moment.
okay. So, as I kind of previously stated, like, financial opportunities for women were already pretty scarce, and it was, like, physically impossible for a woman to work and take care of her child at the same time. So, like, I am not necessarily defending this practice or condemning it in equal measure. I am just saying I understand why a woman in this situation would make the decision to go to a baby farmer. You know?
I mean, in
Yeah.
societal context, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes sense. Like, literally.
Like, obviously, in today's society, we're like, no, that's a stupid thing to do. But, like, back then, with all of the
what else were
different,
they supposed to do?
like, constraints that they had on
Yeah.
them, like, what other option is there?
Like,
I mean,
literally,
really.
what other option do they have? So, yeah, I'm just, yeah, again.
So, like, I can't sit here and, like, condemn them for making that decision
No,
because
no.
it wasn't really their choice.
Exactly.
Anyway.
And, like, they probably, like, a lot of these women came from poor families anyway. They probably weren't educated very well. And just literally, what else were they supposed to do? You know?
Yeah.
Like, society set them up to fail. And I
Honestly,
don't
half of
blame
them probably didn't even want a child
And, yeah.
when they
probably didn't.
ended up pregnant.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, just society set them up to fail, and I'm not going to condemn them for trying to not fall to that, right?
yeah.
So, the issue with this practice is, by design, it attracted women who were just, like, beyond desperate for assistance, and situations like that are often exploited.
Yep.
So, like, it's impossible to know stats on this, but, like, there were some baby farmers who, like, were good-hearted and, like, actually, like, took care of the children and, like,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that. What is that?
I don't know. It's like someone's trying to abduct an alien out of her. Or wait,
Is that a
not,
hose?
Wait.
Like, spraying water?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Oh God, it made me more confused. I'm gonna send you the title of the article.
So just in case people missed it, Hannah is attempting to Google an illustration of, like, the Victorian era understanding of, like, conception, and
Yeah, I can't
it's
find
not
it.
going well. Oh,
Also,
God.
this was also on here.
And she's getting very weird results.
Yeah, which is
Read
expected.
this one. I'll read this one out loud. It says,
Yeah.
Hitler poo painter shocks with new... What did it say?
Huh?
With new... Oh, here's the whole title. I'm not going to read that out loud. I'm having a weird time over here. Can we look at this painting? Or... Nope, it's not on here.
Okay. Hannah's just on a very weird part of the internet right now.
I'm having a time.
Okay, so where was I? Yeah, some baby farmers actually, like, adopted the babies out to good homes or gave them good homes themselves. The biggest issue with this practice of baby farming was that it was much more lucrative, especially in cases of lump sum payments, if the child died. So the payment that the women were giving to baby farmers often couldn't cover the cost of childcare for very long, and that child was taking up a bed that could be taken up by another child for a new payment. So some carers would just, quote unquote, just starve the baby, which saved them money and hastened the death. Others kept the babies quiet with alcohol or opiates, which could cause death. Opiates also dampened the child's appetite, which affected how much they ate and how much money the caretaker had to spend to feed them, because I guess opiates were cheaper than food. Because it was Victorian era, so, like, of course opiates were cheaper than food.
Well, and also the quantity that you would need.
Exactly, yeah, they probably needed a lot less.
Because the amount
than
of
they would
food
with
that a baby eats, they eat like 20 times a day.
Yeah. So
So,
in cases where these babies would pass away, or were murdered, I feel like is a better phrasing of that, these children often weren't reported missing. The authorities in some cases didn't even know that they existed. More often than not, the child was recorded as having been born, but there were times when they weren't, especially when the woman was trying to hide the pregnancy.
Yeah.
Many women were too ashamed of the situation to actually report that their child was missing. And the high infant mortality rate at the time would have hidden these deaths fairly well regardless. So it was actually pretty easy to get away with this, unfortunately. So an undercover Times report in 1870 concluded that children were being murdered in scores, and that, quote, adoption is only a fine phrase for slow or sudden death, end quote.
God.
Yeah, it was not good. So this practice wasn't regulated, like the practice of baby farming wasn't regulated until 1872, which seems late considering how long, like, this practice had been going on for, I mean, Jane Austen went through this, right? So, like, this was not a new concept in 1872. So this was regulated with with the passage of the Infant Life Protection Act. I couldn't find any information about what was actually in this act or, like, what it said, but I do know it didn't do a very good job of actually regulating anything. So, do you have any questions on the concept of baby farming before we move on back to Amelia?
Nope.
Okay. No.
Just want to make sure.
It's just sad.
Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. Sorry, I'm just checking to make sure I put my slide transitions in my notes correctly. Okay, so if we can go to the next slide. This is from 1912 in Chicago. I think it's more of a warning than an advertisement for baby farms. So, Amelia, right, she had trained as a nurse. She had been introduced to the concept of baby farming sometime after that. So she didn't actually start doing it until after her husband died in 1869. Because, like, she needed an income, like, a bigger income, because now one of her incomes has died, essentially. And she had her own children at this point, so she couldn't be a nurse anymore because of those things I listed earlier about how you can't work and have kids at the same time, as a woman anyway. Mm-hmm. So, she turned to baby farming. Her, I'm not going to defend for becoming a baby farmer, which we will get into. So,
nope.
Yeah, she began advertising in newspapers. That was pretty common. So she stated that she was married, which, like, that was a lie because her husband was dead, but whatever. And that she would provide a safe and loving home for the children. She initially only accepted weekly payments, so the mothers could either leave the child with her indefinitely or for a short period of time until they were able to better care for it. And so the first few years, as far as we know, none of the children who went into her care died because of any action by her, if that makes sense. She was taking good enough care of the children. So she married William Dyer in 1872, which was the same year that baby farming was regulated. They eventually had 2 children, and then she eventually left him, but I couldn't figure out when or why. It may have been related to the baby farming. I have no idea. That is a wild speculation on my part.
Oh my god, I finally freaking found
it. Okay,
good. Gross. I had to look up so many gross things.
I'm sure.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay, I thought you were Okay, so, as I said, she wasn't initially doing anything bad to the children, but at some point, she realized that whole thing I mentioned earlier, where bringing in new babies means new payments. And, ew.
I know, look at his little creepy face.
That's disgusting. I don't like that. Okay. So yeah, she realized she could get more money from neglecting the children, and she began doing that. So she would maximize profits from those weekly fees by slowly starving the children and giving them opioid doses. That's hard to say.
Doses.
That's hard to say. To keep them quiet. To keep them quiet and stifle their appetite. This caught the attention of police in 1879. So she went 7 years, well, potentially 7 years-ish, like, killing children and not being caught, at first. It gets worse. So, doctors became skeptical of the number of deaths that had occurred under her watch because this stupid motherfucker, like, she had reported all of the deaths to the coroner so that they would come and remove the body. So they knew every single one that had died.
I'm sorry, are you stupid?
Yeah.
Lady, you got a furnace. Sweeney Todd up in here.
Again, not defending her actions, but, like, if you're gonna do this, like, come on,
at
dude.
least don't be stupid about it.
Be smart about it. Also for this, she was sentenced to 6 months hard labor for child neglect. And that was it.
We love the Victorian era.
Yeah. So, if you can go to the next slide. The one on the left, I believe, is a drawing, and they over-exaggerated certain features to make her look scarier.
That is
So-
a
She was
beautiful
not wearing
woman.
that much eyeliner.
No. So after
Maybe
she,
the right light.
yeah.
Did you see that other one I just sent of like, I think that's of Jesus and Mary, but he's in like a box in her stomach, like breakdancing.
Oh my god. God.
Oh my
They
goodness.
just, God. Victorian era concepts of everything are just terrifying. So,
That's why I have to remind myself constantly that like modern medicine is still relatively new.
yeah. It's very,
Every time
very
I go to the
new.
doctor and they're like, "We don't know what's wrong with you." Every time I get frustrated by that, I'm just like, "But it's
That's
okay."
understandable.
Yeah.
Because they're not drawing blood out of me with leeches.
Yeah. They're
They
not
still do
bleeding
that
me because of
sometimes.
my
They
humors.
do.
Like, yeah.
I just thought of this.
They're not
speaking
gonna
of
put
Victorian.
me into a camp for hysterics.
Nope. What,
Yes.
Hannah?
I was just thinking about this the other day, and I had to change it entirely because in like, for the scene I was writing for something, I had people touching hands, but not in like, it wasn't like a sexual thing.
Uh-huh.
But then I read it as a Victorian, and I was like, this is
Uh-huh.
the gayest shit I've ever written. Take the whole thing out because I was like, this
Yep.
is just, it's no longer a bromance. It's like
Nope. An actual
they're
romance.
just straight fucking and like, great. So anyway, when you read anything in a Victorian context, if anyone touches a hand or if there's a flower and a
Oh my
bee
God.
involved, it is
Yeah.
a crazy,
It's sexual.
hardcore sex scene.
Also, I feel like we should state, just with that, Hannah doesn't have a problem with gay people. She just
I
doesn't.
don't.
That's not what her intent was.
Those two
in writing
people
these
aren't
characters.
intended to be gay.
Yeah.
Actually, no, they weren't the ones who were supposed to be gay. I didn't want to write a gay character into this because of the fact that, just like, I don't want to fall into that trope of like the gay character has to die because everyone in this fucking
Yeah.
book has to die because it's like Soviet Russia and what the
Yeah.
fuck. But
You
like,
don't want to do the barrier gays thing.
no. So
Yeah.
that's why no one can be gay.
There you go.
Hands off. Paws off.
There you go. Okay. Where were we? Okay, so after she got out of prison, she realized two things. One, it would be easier to accept lump sum payments and quote unquote just kill the babies as soon as she could. And two, she should bypass the coroner and dispose of the bodies herself. Because apparently
She had to go
shit,
to prison
Sherlock.
before she figured that one out.
Exactly. So, her new plan was this, and this is the part where I actually describe an act of child abuse. It is the only time, I swear to God, and I am only talking about it because it's relevant to how she got caught. So, her plan and what she did, she would strangle the babies with white, like, tape, and then she would dump their bodies in the Thames or bury them in the yard. And, again, I'm only mentioning it because it's relevant. When she was caught, she told the police, because she got caught, she told the police that the tape was how you could tell it was one of hers. Which is just
Okay.
terrifying to me.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. She was,
Why would you
I
say
don't
that?
know.
I
So,
don't like it. I don't like it.
she was able to do this for 17 years after
Dang.
she got out of prison without getting caught.
Oh my god.
So, some reasons for this. As I said at least once, baby farming was technically regulated, but it was not regulated very well. She would move around a lot, and she would use a different alias at each location because she finally became smart, apparently. If a parent...
Prison will do that to you.
Yeah. If a parent came back and wanted their baby, she would just give them one that hadn't been murdered yet. And
Wait a
then,
minute.
yeah.
My
I mean, they
baby
don't
had
know
a
their
mole on
kids,
its
so...
head.
Yeah. So that is a problem for multiple reasons. Also keep in mind, she had already been baby farming for like about 10 years before she got arrested. So in total, it was roughly 30 years that she was doing this. And many of those years, she was either intentionally neglecting or outright murdering children. So
Gross.
on the next slide, these are the police officers who I believe, I don't know if they were just investigating or if they actually like arrested her.
I'm sorry,
I don't
but those
know.
look like Monty Python
I
jokes
know.
of
I know they do.
constables.
I even
Okay, but
checked.
You know the
But
constables
I've
that
got
talk
a
like this.
picture of my, like, great uncles or something that looks exactly like this.
I know. I even checked to be
It's
like,
in the
this
Hall
is
of
a real
Ancestors.
picture, right? And this is actually for
It's
her.
not
Like, this
staged.
is...
I will send you the picture. Shannon has
Cross-eyed
probably
guy.
seen it,
I
but like in
have.
our Hall of Ancestors, we've got one of my great grandma's like brothers or something, and it looks just like this.
Yeah. So yeah, on March 30th, 1896, a bargeman hooked a package out of the Thames and discovered that it contained the body of a baby girl who was later identified as Helena Fry. So a detective, this is the part where she's stupid again. A detective looked at the, like, because the body was wrapped in this, like, white paper, and there was a name and an address written very faintly on it. The name was somebody named Mrs. Thomas, but the address ended up being Amelia's.
Is she dumb?
Yeah, she's very, very dumb. So they started surveilling her. Duh. And then, out of fear that she would get spooked and run, they sent a young woman as a decoy to ask about her services and, like, arrange a meeting. But instead of the young woman, Amelia was greeted by 2 officers and got arrested. They then searched her home. So there were letters found that indicated that the house should have been full of babies. There weren't any. They found dozens of vaccination papers, vast quantities of tiny clothes, countless pawn tickets for baby clothes, and a bunch of, like, opiates and shit. And then this part is gross, and I am sorry, but I need to say it. So, quote, "The most gruesome evidence was the heavy stench of rotting flesh coming from the kitchen pantry and from a trunk under her bed."
Oh, God.
I know!
Ma'am, did you not have a separate room?
Probably not.
I mean, probably not, but your kitchen
I know.
and your bedroom.
So, sometime in April, which again, she was arrested March 30th. So in April, they dragged the Thames and discovered 6 more bodies.
Oh my god.
They also found mounting evidence that suggested she had murdered many, many more. They were only able to identify 3 of the total found. One was a 4-month-old baby named Doris Marmon. One was a 13-month-old boy named Harry Simmons, and the other was Helena Fry, who was the one who got her caught, basically. So, yeah, they were only
You
able...
go, Helena.
Huh?
You go, Helena.
So, yeah, they were only able to identify 3, like, identify as in, like, we know who this is, and they only got 6 total. They had eyewitnesses stating that they had seen as many as 6 babies come into her home per day. And I pulled this quote from somewhere. I should have written it down. Even a conservative estimate of 10 babies a year would result in around 300 deaths. If you're including the 10 years before she was straight up murdering them. If you're not, it's about 170 deaths, which is still insane. Some people estimate that there's at least 400. But we have no way of knowing at all.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So if we can go to the last slide. Oh yeah, I should have told you guys, my notes for this are, like, way shorter than my last couple of cases.
I noticed how we've been powering through this.
Yeah. There just wasn't, like, as much for Watergate and Tesla. Like, there just isn't as much. So yeah, this is just a drawing from, I don't know if this was like a book or a magazine or something, from 1905 that illustrates Amelia Dyer in court. So, at the trial, Amelia had confessed, but she tried to plead insanity. And so...
No, we're past that, sorry.
Just as an aside...
Insanity is when you're a stressed out mom who, like, drowns her kids in the bathtub, but you, lady, did it systematically.
Yeah.
To get more money.
Goodbye.
Like, exactly. It doesn't work. I'm just going to tell you that now. It doesn't work. So, just with the insanity defense real quick, it is only successful, I'm trying to think, it's less than 2% of cases that go to trial in the U.S. So, like, sorry, I need to start that over. Defendants in less than 2% of cases in the United States attempt to plead insanity. Of that 2%, it's only successful like 0.5% of the time. It is very, very hard to plead insanity. It would have been even harder, in my opinion, to plead it back then because they had a lot less sympathy and understanding of mental illness and things like that.
If there wasn't
Well, and
like
even
an
with an
active hole in your
insanity
head, they
plea,
didn't
you
care.
have to prove it.
Exactly. And with the insanity plea, you have to prove that during the time of the act, you could not distinguish right from wrong.
Yeah.
You know? And that is hard to prove.
Mm-hmm.
You can prove it. It's just very, very difficult to prove it. So,
Yeah.
But you know what's worse than going to jail in the Victorian times?
going to an
Going to
asylum.
yeah, going
Yup.
to
Yeah,
bedlam.
going to bedlam. Yeah. Yeah, well, because
Just
the thing
saying.
was, she was up for the death penalty, so for her, it was better. You know what I mean? And she's stupid. We've already discussed this. So yeah, to be fair, she had already been institutionalized a few times, and she had a history of drug and alcohol use, as well as a history of breakdowns and suicide attempts. However, the prosecution successfully argued that she had faked all of this because she had only been committed like 2 or 3 times. Those occurred during times when she was concerned that she was going to get arrested.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
no.
yeah, so like, that doesn't work.
Well, and you could be institutionalized back then for like any little
Anything.
thing.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. And so,
She cried in public. Take her away.
yeah, they were more looking at the timing rather than like why she was committed,
Yeah.
because the timing is really suspect.
yeah.
Because if that were true, I would be arrested every time I go into Target.
Seriously, right? I know.
Oh my god. You should have seen how I was acting yesterday. I was a total fucking lunatic.
Are you okay?
When I went on my... I just can't even explain it.
I have this tendency.
I only screamed like 48 times.
I have this tendency when I go in stores, if I am under any time constraint at all,
I
it
panic.
doesn't matter if I've got 3 hours. If I'm in that store, I'm like, I got 5 minutes
Yep.
to get everything I need to do. And I like panic my way
Uh-huh.
through that store.
Yeah, it's bad. I do that too.
It's real bad.
Yeah.
I only had one breakdown in the wrapping paper aisle. Just one.
I had a breakdown, not with a store, but during my Bizarre's final the other day, for reasons we have all already discussed. Oh, God, I'm so glad I'm done with that class. Okay, so.
Sorry for the noise, Shannon. I'm rolling away from my desk on
No, you're
accident.
fine. It's okay. Where were we? So yeah, she was not able to successfully plead the insanity defense. The jury found her guilty in 4.5 minutes. Which is like the shortest jury deliberation I've ever seen.
The jury was like, all right, we walked in the room, no one sit down, she's guilty, let's go.
Basically, yeah, that's what they did. So, she was sentenced to death and hanged at Newgate on June 10th, 1896, which is about 3 months after she'd been arrested, because the Victorian era did not believe in appeals. And they believed in very quick death penalties. So, aftermath for that. Her case specifically sparked adoption law reform in the UK because it was like so many deaths that the government couldn't ignore it.
It was such a Victorian, like, not trope, what am I trying to say? Like, theme? Like, if
Yeah.
you read anything from the Victorian age, read anything by Elizabeth Barrett Browning, there are at least 4 dead orphans in it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I'm gonna get into that a little
crazy.
bit.
Okay.
Yeah, not a lot, but just a tiny bit. But yeah, you're right. Like, this was such a common thing. I'm kind of surprised it took this much, but it's the government of any
Seriously.
country, so of course it did. And it was just a massive scandal. So Amelia Dyer's nickname became the Ogress of Reading, and it inspired a song, which I'm not going to sing, but I will read you the lyrics. So,
Jesus, Shannon.
okay, I have way too much anxiety about that. We're not even going to go there. So,
No, I wouldn't.
yeah. The old baby farmer, the wretched Miss Dyer, at the Old Bailey, her wages is paid. In times long ago, we'd a made a big fire and roasted so nicely that wicked old jade. Yeah.
Wow.
I love it.
Yeah.
Hold on,
So,
I'm trying to find this poem.
Is
by
it bad
Elizabeth.
that this isn't like, this is only slightly related, but is it bad that I find myself singing the Lizzie Borden song?
dude, it's stuck in my head fucking constantly.
Like, all the time. I'll just be at work and I'll be like walking through the sections at the store and just be like singing about
Yeah.
giving your mother 40 whacks.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
I was
Shelby,
trying
stop
to
it.
decide what to do for my next one, just that I had it, like, in my head. And one of my options was Lizzie Borden, and I did that, like, this week. So that song has been in my head for, like, 5 days. Because I just think the name and the song comes in.
Right? Like, I can say, anybody can even just say Lizzie, and I'm just like, Lizzie Borden had an axe.
Yeah, it's bad. So yeah, with this adoption law reform, it took a while for it to actually be, not fixed, but actually be regulated. So the Infant Life Protection Act of 1897, which was the year after she was hanged, finally gave authorities ways of regulating the practice, because it took them 20 fucking years to do that. Actually, no, 25 years. That's insane. So it allowed them to, like, control the registration of nurses responsible for more than one infant under the age of 5 for a period longer than 48 hours. So basically, if you wanted to do this, you had to be registered and you had to be a nurse, I believe, is how that was structured. But it didn't completely solve the problem, obviously. So the last baby farmer to be hanged in Britain was a woman named Rhoda Willis, and that was in 1907. In 1908, the Children's Act, which was just another law, declared that, quote, no infant could be kept in a home that was so unfit and so overcrowded as to endanger its health, and no infant could be kept by an unfit nurse, who threatened by neglect or abuse its proper care and maintenance. So that basically said you can't abuse children as a nurse, which, again, I don't know why it took them that long. And then fostering and adoption were officially brought under the purview of the state in the 1930s, which effectively put an end to the process of baby farming, although it had been dying for a while. And then this is just some random crap that I thought was interesting, which Hannah already touched on one of them. So some people have suggested that Dyer was Jack the Ripper, but, like, no, she fucking wasn't.
No.
Like, no. I just wanted to bring it up because I felt like if I didn't,
they're not even
remotely
similar crimes.
No, they're not. And, like, even with Jack the Ripper, there's a lot of controversy over whether that was even just one person, because some of the murders didn't match the other ones. Anyway, she was not Jack the Ripper. So, and then the next one is the one that Hannah...
I swear, everybody who even, like, remotely thought about killing someone in England in Victorian era, everyone's like, Jack the Ripper.
I know, but, like, guys, no. So yeah, my last little chunk is what Hannah already touched on. So baby farming is featured in a lot of media, both during the Victorian era and in contemporary media about the Victorian era. So I just have a list of some things that feature baby farming. So Oliver Twist, which is the Charles Dickens novel, like the character Oliver Twist spent his early childhood in a baby farm. And then there's so many fucking books from this era that feature baby farming. The list was insane.
Les Mis.
Including, yes, apparently Les Mis, which I am really mad that I didn't make that connection. Although I think with that is, I wouldn't go so far as to call that
it's not so much a baby
farming.
farm. The reason I brought it up was because
that other context fit into it a lot better.
Yeah, that was not so much a baby farm as
it's a fostering.
I mean, they took in one child. But...
Yeah, they only took in the one, so I wouldn't
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, because I said that stuff. But
oh, sorry.
I was saying, yeah, it's not so much a baby farm. It's more that it was bad for what's her name to be raising a child as a single parent.
Yeah, exactly.
Quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
It was shameful.
Exactly. So yeah, there's just a few more. So there's an opera from the 1870s called the HMS Pinafore, which featured a character that was a baby farmer who had switched two babies of different social classes, and this was used as, like, a satire of class hierarchy in Victorian England.
Ooh, cool.
The 1926 silent film Sparrows, which starred Mary Pickford, was set in a baby farm, which, like, I might cover Mary Pickford because she was a hoot. Like,
a hoot and a half.
There was an evil baby farmer on the BBC soap opera EastEnders. And then this was my first introduction to the concept of baby farming, really. It's featured very heavily in Sarah Waters' novel Fingersmith. So.
Yeah.
And that is all I have on Amelia Dyer.
Can I read you
part
farming. Of this poem by Elizabeth Barrett Browning?
Yes.
About dead children?
Yes.
I don't think, this isn't so much about baby farming. It's more about children workers. because that was also a problem
I
back
know.
back in the Victorian
Yeah.
era. This is like the, let's see, third stanza, and it's super duper long, but there's this part about the skid. Anyway, I'll just read to you.
It's fine.
True,
We have
say
time.
the children, it may happen that we may die in our time. Little Alice died last year, and her grave is shapen like a snowball in the rhyme. We look into the pit, prepared to take her. Was no room for any work in these in the close clay. From the sleep wherein she lieth, none will wake her, crying, "Get up, little Alice, it is day." If you listen by that grave in the sun and shower, with your ear down, little Alice never cries. We could see her face, be sure we should know her. We should not know her, for the smile has time in growing in her eyes, and the merry go her moments, lulled and stilled in the shroud by the kirk chime. It is good when it happens, say the children, that we die before our time. That is the third stanza of this super duper long thing, and then it goes on to talk about, alas, the wretched children. Anyway, it's like so.
Oh
It was like a big deal though. Like all these kids were dead, and they were like, let's sit by Alice's grave and see if she's alive. Nope, she can't work in there. There's no room. Too bad. Anyway, back to work, guys. I hope we die. Oh yeah, see. Blah blah blah.
No.
Or all day we drive the wheels of iron in the factories round and round.
Oh,
Yep,
good
it's
God.
about being a kid in a factory. We are weary. We cannot run or leap.
Okay.
Oh God, it's
On
so
that
depressing.
note-
Anyway.
Yeah, that was all I had. I think that's a good way to end this. We still haven't done an ending.
Oh shoot, I didn't even read what that poem was called. It's called The Cry of the Children by
There we
Elizabeth
go. Of
Barrett
course
Browning.
it fucking is.
The Cry of the Children. I knew it was something of the children.
Yeah.
The scream of the children, the cry of the children,
Yeah.
the children are dead, something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
You know. Something depressing like that.
Yeah.
It's really great.
Okay.
It's a good poem. It's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all I got. So,
Okay, bye.
And peace.
one of
out.
these days.
Happy
we'll do an
Hanukkah.
ending. Yes. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Okay.
L'chaim.
Yep. Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks for listening to The Triad. Our music is by Scott Buckley. Our audio is recorded by our sound engineers, Craig Bott and Audrey Credo.
If you like the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Tumblr as The Triad Podcast. Our website is thetriadpodcast.wordpress.com. There, you can find information about our latest episode, including the show notes and sources.
We're also on Patreon as The Triad. Currently, all Patreon funds will go towards the cost of hosting the show. Each tier has its own rewards, but every patron receives our undying gratitude. Do you have comments, questions, or stories? Email us at thetriadpod@gmail.com. And thank you again for listening to The Triad, where we're spooky but sensitive.